Hello, I'm Martin Warwick, the Editor-in-Chief of TelecomTV. We're here in The Hague in the Netherlands at Tech Mahindra's Network Services Conclave 2016. And I'm talking with André Beijen, who is Head of Network Innovation at KPN. It's great to see you. Thanks for being here. I want to talk to you about the notion of de-hyping. It seems to me, as you well know, hype is endemic in the service provider and comms industry and has been for a long time. A new technology, a new idea appears. Nobody really knows what it is for a while, and suddenly the hype machine goes into overdrive and it's puffed up out of all proportion. Do you think that's what's happening with network transformation, SDN, NFV and IoT? The reason I'm asking is, it seems to me, from looking at this from a journalist's point of view, is that the vendors, in some cases, are overpromising, and the service providers and their customers, that is the service providers themselves, have too many expectations. They think, this is the universal nostrum and everything's going to be lovely. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, definitely. You see that in the history of telecom, you see that over and over again. So the last hype, I think, was all IP. And the hype before that was internet, and the hype before that was PSTN. So you see rings of technology, waves of technology, and the hype is definitely there, yeah. And de-hyping means, I think, making sense of what's presented to you and thinking about, okay, how can I use this new technology for the benefit of my customers?
As Head of Network Innovation, it's a great title to have because, it's very important. But on the other hand, you are there in the middle of all this, between a rock and a hard place, as it were, in that you have got to some way or other be realistic and to balance over-expectation and over-promising and say, no, this is going to be the reality. Is that hard to do?
Yes, in some cases. You see your customers are still on the new legacy. And you have to make investment decisions on the future and how your customers are going to benefit from your investment. So how can you transform it into value? And separating the sense from the nonsense is sometimes difficult. You see a lot of feelings in the equation instead of facts. And we have to be careful to make decisions on facts and not feelings.
So would you say that at KPN you're a sort of in-house skeptic?
I think in a sense we all are. There's a scarcity of funding, obviously. There's a scarcity of knowledge. So in a sense we have to discuss very wisely on where to put our money where our mouth is and to invest only in those areas that we think that are beneficial for our customers. But it's difficult. You have as many opinions in the company as outside the company, and you have to try to make sense of it.
Okay, you have finite resources, you have budgets, you have staff, you have expectations from the market, everything else which you have to balance together and try and make sense of it all, and you're expected also to innovate at the same time.
Sure.
How do you, in your daily work, go about doing that? Presumably it's an ongoing, endless iteration of trying to see what the reality is behind the smog of over-expectation.
We do a lot of things. First of all, we read a lot. And that's I think vintage. That's old school. But we read a lot of stuff because by writing, people have to think about what they're writing. So we read a lot. We discuss a lot with vendors, with customers, and try to see what drives them, and always try to ask the questions behind the question. I think in some sense that's comparable to your job.
It is.
And also we test a lot. So if you promise something on PowerPoint, we say, okay, well, we're Dutch, we're skeptical. Let's come and show it. And we do proof of concepts. We try to prove from the concept of the reality. So we test a lot also. And that gives us information to make good decisions.
I was going to say, because from that, again, it's an iterative process. You make one good decision, you rationalise, feedback loop, and make the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How far along the road to real network transformation are you? I mean, you mentioned briefly legacy. I mean, KPN and all service providers have a legacy infrastructure that works. They've spent a great deal of money on it over the years. Okay, it's not virtualized, it's wire and it's boxes and it's there, but it works. It might take a few weeks or months to spin up new services, but nonetheless you can do it. But virtualization would lead us to believe that it can be done more or less instantaneously. But you're not going to throw away a legacy system and all that investment. So again, how do you balance the fact that you have the legacy and you're being pressured into this change to virtualization?
Well, there are three kinds of pressure. One is from a cost perspective. So the promise of the industry is that this virtualization is much better for your TCO. And that's a pressure. We are always looking for the lowest possible total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
The second pressure is from our customers. So if there is actually customer need, we will do it. And we are trying to find out what the customer needs really are. So we talk a lot we spend a lot of time with our business customers, basically. And the third pressure is about technology, because actually our vendors are moving towards cloudification and virtualization. So in a few years from now, you can only purchase that. So you have to be prepared. But I think the most important is customers and value. If you don't invest in stuff that doesn't bring value for your customers, and TCO is also important, but I think customers are more important.
So would you say that a great part of your job is to sort of weed out facts from wishful thinking? And if that is the case, does it cause tensions within the organisation itself when somebody like you, the head of network innovation, says, "Oh, hold on a minute, let's just think about this a bit more clearly"?
Yeah, of course that brings the tension. I'm always in favor of entrepreneurial spirits in a large organization, and so people push forward a great idea. And if you discuss that and you try to bring sense in it, of course there's tension and disappointment and stuff like that. But in the end of the day, I think we are all realistic people. So we have limited budget. You can only spend your capex once. And we have an obligation to our shareholders to do that wisely. So in the end of the day, people will understand the decisions we will make. That doesn't mean that they are sometimes disappointed.
It might be stereotyping, perhaps, but generally the Dutch are regarded as pragmatic and skeptics, and who want to see things. Seeing is believing. Doubting Thomas's type. Would you put yourself in that category? Yes,
obviously. I also have dreams. But in the end, I make decisions based on what the stuff I can understand. So I'm skeptic by nature, in the sense that you have to make your own decisions and not let somebody else make decisions for you. So I try to get as much information as possible and deal with the uncertain part. But I make my own decisions, and it's about asking a lot of questions, asking a lot of people on their point of view. But in the end of the day, if you have all the information, then you have to decide, and that's something I do as much as possible on facts.
Very interesting to talk to you and get a different perspective on what's going on inside a service provider. André Beijen, thanks very much.
You're welcome.